Okay, are we live? Are we live? Okay, so hello everyone. So we're back for our Q&A with Mathieu today.
Hello.
So joining me because I guess you guys had a lot of questions that he will be able to answer. So before to start, we wanted to thank you so much, guys, for your feedback since the release of the game. I mean, looking at the Metacritic reviews, forum activity, and all the mails and letters we got from you guys, your feedback since the release of the game. And I mean, really looking at really nice to read Metacritic, guys. Giving us a lot of energy for the continuation and all the forum activity and all the mails and letters. We also had a lot of questions about the state of the game, about potential bugs, improvements, and so we have a little list there. So I'm going to go through that, and with Mathieu, we're going to try to answer as much as we can. So sometimes we may lack some specific details, and so we have a little list, especially about dates. So I'm going to go through numbers, and with Mathieu, we're going to try to just ship the game. So as much as we can, we can give you indications of our plans. Sometimes we may ourselves don't have all the specific details, and so we have a little list, especially about dates. So I'm going to go through numbers, and with Mathieu, we're going to try to just ship the game. So as much as we can give you indications. Sometimes we may ourselves don't have some specific
it really means a lot. Also on Steam, on Metacritic, and everywhere. So don't hesitate to feed more. It's a blessing for the whole team. Thanks again.
Cool. So looking at some of the questions. So you know what? I will try to address some of the most specific stuff you guys asked. I wanted to start with two things. AI. A lot of questions about the AI and questions about modding. So let's start by the AI. What are our plans concerning the AI for the next few weeks?
So in the past weeks, we had a lot of progress on the AI because it's a very complex system which emerged finally in something which is okay, I would say, for the release. But we still have a measure of improvements. There are stuff that the AI is not perfectly doing or not doing at all. So we've put together a task team this morning to build up a plan to determine what are the best areas of improvement for the AI. So do not hesitate to give us feedback on your experience on the game and what you think is lacking. Are there any easy ways to beat the AI? Is it doing stuff at the same time all the time? So all of that is really critical for us to make the right decisions to make the AI even better.
I think I could create a subforum for the AI because I think a lot of different stuff, whether this is for the economy, for the military, diplomacy, these areas we will look really into. Even on the military side, there are a lot of different things we can look. The actual economy of the military, how to build what, when, equipment of the troops of the AI. It's true, like as you know, the design of the units can really change a lot the course of the battle. Then we have also how the AI handles the battles. It's very interesting to see how you can beat and trick the AI during the battle. Campaigns, can you predict how to beat an AI in a military campaign, whether it is when they attack or when they defend. So all that kind of feedback is extremely interesting. And the more details you get, the more scenarios on how to repeatedly beat the AI is very interesting for us. So we can try to make sure you can't do that again, and the AI is less and less predictable. So a lot of discussions that we're going to have on the next few weeks on that, but the guys are already on it, and we're actually tuning the AI at the very moment.
And also, I want to reassure you that it's not a matter of skill and competence on our side. It's just that the game is huge in terms of content, of features, and we really wanted to have an AI which is going to play differently depending on the type of faction you have chosen. So it has to do a number of tasks which is enormous. So right now what we have again is decent, but with your help, we wanted to make it even better.
And it's true that we are learning ourselves a lot from our own strategies. So we are all discovering every day how to be better at playing the game as human players. So thanks to that, the AI will get better. So we do have a questions from Pauduk. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right. So, okay, I have to get closer. Okay, and I'll make some more. Okay. Question. Okay, stable. Okay, a stable in the strategy games are the unites.
So why only 3 units per race?
Okay, why only 3 units per race? Okay, it works for you, but you want to know why. Okay, it's interesting. There were a lot of discussions with that. For us, we wanted to make sure that all the races we would create would all be very different, visually and in terms of game design. But also we came up with the idea that when you will create your own race, you will want to have it evolving throughout the course of the game, and not just by things you decided at the beginning of the game, like picking up your faction. But for us, your faction would have to be created as the game goes along, and therefore, including minor factions, create your whole faction. So for us, in the end, what you have is more like 6, 7 units if you count, settlers, but maybe or militia or whatever. Let's say 6 units, and that's more or less what is for us your size of units. And you can even say, well, 6 is not enough, and it's true. We can say that if we wanted. Then also we have the design of the units. All your units for us are just the basics of what they will be, because they can be anything. Give them a spear, they will be amazing against cavalry. Like give them swords, they would be better against melee. So all the units, they'll have all these combinations according to what equipment you give them, not just weapons, but more hit points, more attack, more defense. So there is, even with 6 units in a faction, there is an infinity of designs of units, and that's why we decided to go that way and to focus more on designing the units and the richness brought by the game design or the design of the units.
Well, obviously there's also a production issue, because we could have made tens of units, but we didn't have the time to have the right unit which look good, which integrate into the faction. So we prefer to have a very good content, which we're happy with. And as you said, 3 units is sufficient for you with the design system, as Romain said. So it felt like a good compromise. And I think we have like 60 different units in the game, which is already a huge amount of content, which you can try. So to us, it doesn't feel like a limitation.
And they have to all feel unique.
Yeah.
Because the more you add units, the less and less each unit is unique. Okay?
Okay.
Good for the question. Or you want another one from Prop Buddha? Since now the new combat system was introduced. Since the new combat system was introduced, it takes many more attacks to kill an opponent, which slows down the combats. Was it purposeful design? Well, I think it was more when we started. The units were dying very, very quickly, and that was not intended. So as it is now is more what is intended, because originally what we had in mind was a combat could last several game turns. So you could, especially big epic fights, want them to last over 2 turns or 3 turns. So you could come and bring some reinforcement, and they would be included in the battle, and the battle could expand, and the power of the battle could shift from one to the other. So that was the whole idea with having battles, and therefore you need to be able to have units that could sustain the whole length of a battle and more. So as we are now, we are more or less halfway to what we envisioned originally, where most of the fights will be finished during the game turn. So if that does answer your question, Prod Buddha, that is intended, and I hope you like it that way. I hope. Okay. Next question. Okay, so we talked about the AI. We have a few questions from the modding. So actually, I was discussing that even yesterday. So with some of you guys. So modding, what do you have in mind?
So right now you can actually play around with the XML files of the game to try to mod the game, which is not very practical. So the stage 1 of modding, which we're going to do, is we're going to add in the main menu an option to select a mod, and then you will have and then you will have subfolders to store each mode, and then a menu to select which mode you want to activate. We're still looking into if we can have several modes activated at the same time, meaning that the data files can actually cohabit together. We're looking into this, but we hope to have the first version of the modding in the coming weeks. So I'm not going to say next week, but hopefully sometime in October. So we're starting to work on that right now. The game has been thought as being moddable from the start, and actually the main game is a mode, the basic mode. So there's lots of things you can change on the unit data, technologies, AI parameters, lots of stuff. So obviously you'll have access to all this, and then we're going to expand progressively to more options for modding, maybe changing, adding new images for the GUI, stuff like that. It may be more complex than Endless Space because actually creating a new unit in the game is very complex. You have to build a character, to rig it, to animate it. So I'm not sure if this is going to be available for everyone. Well, easy to do for everyone, but we'll look into what we can do in the coming month of support.
Cool.
Oh, we do have a question.
Okay, so in custom factions, will we ever be able to pick our own units ever? It's when I guess you mean by having different affinity and units, visuals basically,
or maybe
from the
having
gameplay.
Individual units. You want to pick a footman for the Broken Lords and a wyvern from the dragons, stuff like that.
If that's what Mathieu described, it's not what we had in mind. I guess something we could think of, but for later, much later.
Yeah,
it's definitely not what we had in mind.
Actually, I find it a bit weird when you make a custom faction and you interact with a dragon figure, and then you have roving clan units. To us, it feels a bit weird. So now it's connected, but we're going to see if we can split that down.
Yeah, we could give different costs to different units. So.
After the release, sorry, it was another question.
Okay. So let's move on to some, because we have plenty of questions. So Endless Legend Founder Pack. Many of you were commenting. So there are two different things. It seems like we have an unlock from people who have Dotty, but don't see their unlock in the game. So we have to look into that. And then you have people who have the founder pack of Legend, and you say you don't see enough the hero Namkang in the game. It's true, we don't give it more weight than any others.
And actually we have somehow the same issue with the Endless Hero in Endless Space.
Yes.
Which we somehow cheated to make it more
available.
So it's
we could think of that also.
Yeah, maybe
for the next add-on, or try to, or before that, to increase the weight.
But if no one has ever seen Namkang in a game, that's interesting for us because it should be there.
If you have, the founder pack, you should see
yeah.
it. We had one like that. Okay, two other questions. One for the very beginning, and let's say it bluntly, tutorial is boring. For the ones who played Endless Space, it is much better. So we are improving. We were way more ambitious originally for the tutorial, so we have to admit it. Originally wanted to make it a full-fledged campaign, explaining the whole story of the Vaulters and how it started, so... we had to make choices at the end,
But we still put a lot of effort. I mean, it's been 3 months of work for
But if it is boring for the
a
players,
game designer, producer, but I think it's way better than NSpace.
Yes.
But it's a tough break to try to explain a 4X game in a tutorial because there's so much to tell. So yes, there's lots of text, there's a lot of explanations, but could it be done otherwise?
yeah, definitely. I'm sure we can always do better. But what for later we can still improve by, you know, a lot of you guys are saying also, you know what, I play the tutorial and I still don't understand that and that feature. It's
Yeah.
only by going to the forums that I do
So
understand
you
that.
mean breaking down in chapters?
Yes.
the tutorial?
What we wanted to do at first was to create a few chapters for that go more and more advanced, and you could skip the chapters and, you know, and just go to the chapters that, you know, is interesting for you guys. And actually, if you didn't want to go for chapters, you know, you can just play them all in a row. That is something maybe for the next, you know, add-on expansions, whatever, we could try to work on that to introduce more to some of the advanced features, like the combat system, for example. The combat system, you know, it's so rich, you know. I spend a lot of time explaining on the here, I think nearly every week on Twitch, you know, a few hints about the combat. On the forums, we have a few threads to explain, you know, about the subtleties of the combat system. It's stuff the tutorial could definitely help if you could only go to that tutorial, just the combat, and not have to play the whole campaign just to see that part of the combat system.
So we have a question.
So when do you plan on releasing an endless art book? We had that question last week. So okay, so again, are we planning a printed version? Thank you guys for asking the question. We definitely are planning an electronic version of the art book. We didn't start yet, actually.
No, we haven't started yet.
But I think we have some artists that may have some more time now that they had a few weeks back or days back. So definitely could look at that. Paper version, it's always the same question that we have every time. We don't know how many people would be interested, so you know, it could be expensive for us. So
For Endless Space, the art book costs about 30 euros to manufacture. It was very expensive, so it was in small amounts, so the bigger the amount of copies you produce, the less expensive it's going to be. But then for us, it's taking a huge risk of having stocks which will never sell. So
and who would buy, like, let's say 40 euros of shipping, you know, of art books? You know, it's not true.
I think yes, there will be an art book in PDF, and it is going to be available at some point in some form. But for the printed version, maybe we'll have a very limited selection. But I cannot say that it's going to be available for purchase for you.
But anyway, for the ones interested, it could be interesting to try to start somehow for you guys to try to be able to say that you're interested by the, you know, printed version, so we can see what we
and
can do.
And then maybe we can do a small batch for those who are really motivated about it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for that question. So I said, you know, one question about the tutorial, but for the very beginning, one question about the end game. Lots of you are saying, you know, the end game could be improved. Lots of questions around that, and we totally agree with you. You know, there's so much more we want to do for the end game,
which was improved since the early access, because the technology has been changed, the way the whole game develops has been modified.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I very agree with some of you guys. You know, I would want to see more like badass stuff coming at the end. And it's true that in most of the games we do, basically, you know, we tend to end in huge epic, you know, wars, you know, with some of the neighbors, trying to rush, you know, for one type of victory before the others.
So some mentioned super units or wonders, stuff like that.
But that's it. We need some badass stuff, you know, that would be so much more fun. So we'll definitely think about that for evolutions of the game. So, and again, you are very welcome to come and discuss the end game with us, so we can see how we can improve it together. I would say more like expand on it. Basically, it feels like, you know, we can definitely expand the end game. Okay, so what else do we have?
I saw a question in the list. The one saying that they're There's missing a notification for when the city is not building anything.
Yes.
Yeah, that's some kind of easy stuff we can do,
Yes.
as well as telling you that maybe you should use your resources to get a boost in the empire. Make sure we're going to make a note of that somehow, but make sure you put that in the suggestions for improvements, and it's not easy, it's not hard to do, so we can do it differently.
So in the questions we have again from Nos, he is asking again for the what we can say about the battles and the exact modifiers. I know I discussed that last time in details. I will be quick, but maybe to make sure that everyone again is aware of the what matters in the combat. Basically, the combat is all about what unit you put where. That's for us. That's the whole concept of the combat system. The where what is important is heights. When you are higher up, you have 30% increased damage. Sorry, it's increased attack, meaning more chances to hit and to do a better hit. In forest, you have 30% increased defense. So that would go the other way around, less chances to be hit or reduced damage because of that. The other thing is morale, and morale comes from either being in a city or being close to friendly units. So basically what you want to do is to be in a forest, on a city, on high ground, together with your friendly units and fighting your enemy. And by that you can have such big bonuses that you can do a lot of damage. Then talking about which unit to put where, it's also how you design it. Do you want to have your tanks in front? Maybe you want to have your distant units behind. Maybe if I see my enemy doing a lot of cavalries, maybe I want to equip spears that would do a lot more damage against cavalries.
If you have a unit which can stun others, maybe you want it to give a lot of initiative, so you can strike first
before they
to
attack.
Stun the others.
So it's all these kind of things that are taken into account. So again, height, morale, cities, being close together, and choosing the right weapons and the right equipment. Well, that was a quick overview of the battle. Okay, yeah, another good question from you guys about wiki. We do have 2 unofficial wikis. So we didn't make them ourselves. They're not official, therefore.
Because we spent a lot of time on the game manual, which is actually one of the best we've done so far.
Yeah, it's true.
Even compared to other games in our previous slide before Amplitude, but there was a lot of effort put in the manual. So I guess maybe we can also, if it's needed, provide the sources of the manual if people want to copy it to put in the wikis.
Yes.
That could be a way to accelerate the construction of such wikis.
So, but they both are linked in our pages somewhere on the forum. So if you want to look for the wikis, they should be there. Check with with the community developers. Okay, what else do we have?
I think there's a question from Einstein, which is interesting, with an answer as well.
Okay, very good question. And actually, that goes back. So Einstein says, I want to know what more we can do to help Amplitude so many more people know about this great game. So we'll go back to actually some questions you guys had over the weekend and we did not answer to. And one of them was, how were the sales? Well, how were the sales, Mathieu?
Well, the sales were average. It was decent, but it was less than Endless Space, and Endless Legend was a more ambitious game. So it's somehow disappointing. But the thing is, we have great reviews from the fans on Metacritic, on the forums.
And that's awesome.
And it's awesome. So if you really love the game, feel free to add more Metacritic reviews, to advertise about it, to speak with your to your friends about it, and also again the multiplayer is great. So if you want to play with your friends, have them buy the game. It's really going to help us out. So as Podak said, yes, you can tweet about the game, telling you have a blast playing it. So any help you can get is great for us. So it's not a catastrophe, it's not a disaster. It's still not as high as we expected. So it's true we've faced fierce competition this weekend with other games, with promotions. So I think we still think that the game has a great potential, but right now Will do. Thank you, Einstein. Right now, any way you have to rattling the cage to get more feedback, more coverage, and more voice, it's going to help us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. For me, there are a few things I'd like to say to any one of you guys who want, to do indie games, for example. I would say avoid release a game, in September, October, November, December. Basically, it's hard to compete with, all the big money from the big companies, and the week we came out was during the Tokyo Game Show, and obviously lots of journalists had a lot of things to talk about, and it's true, being in India at that moment is not the best period. It's like, for us trying to do a news announcement at E3, which we tried to do, I think, once, and obviously nobody listened. So it's true. We're too small to attract attention during that time. So that's why we need you guys. If you like the game, if you're there, I think at that moment, that means you like it, and please, let everyone know that how much you love it. So that would help us a bunch. Thanks. Okay, what else?
And also, we're waiting to have a lot more reviews in the coming days. The thing is, we planned for giving to the press a build about a week before the release, but it's a 4X game. There was lots of activity, lots of other games coming up, so we didn't have all the reviews coming this weekend, but hopefully this week. And we had very good first reviews from a few sites, only one of them on Metacritic so far, but so we really reassured about the perception of the game, its feedback. Now we only need to have more coverage. We have another questions. Yeah, question.
Okay, that's a long question from Griffin0129. So if you don't mind, can you explain your decision about how the Broken Lords gain population? I played the alpha version of the Broken Lords, and Okay, so the Broken Lords are based on two factors, by the population you have in that city where you want to buy the population, and by the size of your empire, meaning by how many populations in total do you have in my empire. So the bigger your empire, the more expensive your population will be. The more population you have in the city, the more expensive the population will be. The Broken Lord, they are able to create a lot of dust, but it's true that as it is today, population are still pretty expensive, and not so happy about how much population, how expensive they are at the towards mid to end game. They're too expensive, so we don't want to.
Maybe you can give the formula on the forum if people want to look into it to give some advice.
Yes. Definitely. I mean, it's you can check all that in even in our public folder. It's all public information, but definitely we can share that with you guys. But basically, I think what we'll do is we'll reduce, the cost of populations, on the longer run. But some of you guys were asking for creating more dust for the Broken Lords. We won't do that because, with dust, you can buy lots of heroes, you can buy lots of, resources and stuff. So we don't want to increase more the dust. They're already getting a lot, but more we reduce the price of the population, especially linked to the empire size. That's what we're aiming at. So that's, and actually that was one of the other questions I was about to answer, so that's one less. How do we balance the factions, and do we know the roving clans are overpowered? I do love the roving clans.
Yeah, he plays them a lot.
That's maybe why, so sorry, that's my fault. Okay, we'll look into it. Again, it's good so you share with us why you think they're overpowered. I would agree that they're badass, but I thought that was me just being good. Okay, so we'll look into that.
I think there was a thread in the space where people were saying which of the factions were the most powerful one or their favorite ones.
We did that in Legend also.
In Legend as well?
In the alpha, but everyone
maybe
voted.
we could run again the thread
true.
To see what you think of the faction, which ones are overpowered and stuff.
Because we did that for the alpha, thinking it would be obvious to from you guys vote which one will be the most overpowered, and actually they were kind of nearly even, not even, but it was amazing to see that everyone had his favorite faction, or least favorite faction. So, and they were not all the same for across the board. So that was interesting to see. Lots of questions also about the permanent winter. Basically, what happens is towards the end of the game, Auriga is dying if you don't do anything. It's winter. It's true that we'll give you the opportunity to continue the game after the turn limit, which tends to be in winter. So we need to work on that. So if you continue the game, you're not in a permanent winter state. So it is an improvement we have to make, and we'll make it when, I don't know, but it will be in our list. So we'll work on that. And someone asked, please add a quick move and combat, no move and combat animation feature, just to make sure in the combat section or in the advanced settings in the map game creation, you can set faster animations, fast or very fast animations for the battles. But we don't have that feature for the campaign map, so maybe we can look on that also, because it should be doable as we did it for the battles. So
actually, I think some of the units, the AI, the minor factions are doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So maybe it's possible to do it as well for the player units.
We'll look into it for the campaign. But anyway, on the map, on the battles, check game settings. You can change the animation speed. Okay. Did we talk about the scenarios? No, I don't think we talked about the scenarios. Scenarios, map editor.
Yeah, map editor. So far we've done a very rough map editor, basically to build a tutorial, because we wanted to have a very specific map for the gameplay. The thing is, it's very hardcore. It's inside our Unity editor, so it's not something you can access through an in-game editor. So it's it's a project in itself. So I think it's going to be more for an add-on in the future, maybe, but not for a release in the coming months. Not right now.
Yes. Yes, and no, it's true. Scenario-wise, you need a map editor for that. I think it would be so much nicer. But we definitely have a lot of support through the quest system for you guys to be able to create some very interesting stories, and with like different chapters and branches and stuff. So the language for creating quests is pretty advanced, and can do a lot of very cool stuff.
It's complex.
It's very complex in random maps for now, but it's still very interesting to put your own stories on it. So again, you will need modding for that. You can do it, by fooling around with the public folder. But yeah, that could be interesting. So do I have any more questions? So I think we are all set. Again.
Yes.
Okay. Last question, and that will be the last for today, for Tolizuka. No, okay, more questions coming. Okay, so Tolizuka, if you plan of creating an expansion add-on, is there a chance for more community-created content? Obviously, the answer will be yes, but I think with the Cultists, we've been very far. I think it was more a question of timing. We asked you full-fledged, a faction just a month or two before release. That was insane. So we will not do that. We'll do something else. But definitely, we'll continue to ask you, for example, what are your priorities? So if we can work on that or that, and we like both, we'll ask you which one you prefer. Most of the time, what happens is just a matter of priorities. Both will be done. It's just you vote for the one that arrives first. Then we can also create together some manufacturing that we want to add, some quests, stories, heroes. That's a lot of stuff that we can keep on building the lore together. So that could be very interesting and a lot of fun. Okay, question about from Prop Buddha about any plans to improve the trade routes. Yes, the payoff is today underwhelming. You are right. So we will tune that. It's pretty easy to tune. We just need to. The problem is, we're afraid to do too much with it. Sometimes with tuning endless space, we're just changing a few things on the trade routes, and then people will drown under like dust and science. So it's a tricky one. We'll definitely try to increase their revenues.
Endless space patch add-on. So as we said previously, we've been really focused on Endless Legend. So also what we said is we're going to take a look at Endless Space to see if we could improve some stuff. So we have a meeting tomorrow to discuss that, to discuss the biggest issues on the forum, to look into that. So I don't have any answers yet, but we'll look into it. It's not easy because, well, the game has been released 2 years ago. The engine is getting a bit old for us, but anyway, we'll see what are the major issues in single player, multiplayer, and see if we can do some improvements in the form of a small add-on.
I guess mostly single player.
Mostly single player.
Okay.
We'll see.
Cultist heroes are really strong. Taking into account the story of the cultists, did you think about making them not available on the marketplace? It's a good point. No, it's true that, you know, a lot of, if you think about it, you know, most of the heroes wouldn't make any sense, you know, by being available on marketplace, you know. But at the same time, we like the idea of, you know, everyone, you know, having just an origin, but, you know, wants to go somewhere else, you know.
Maybe the cultist hero is a bit too powerful. Maybe it's that we need to.
Yeah, that's yeah. We can look.
But I think it's great to have different
and mix
heroes coming from different factions in the market.
Or else, we will lack in richness. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. So we'll come back next week again, same time, same day.
And thanks to Dark Messiah too. And do you know your name corresponds to a game Romain worked on a few years ago?
Yes, one of my favorite games I worked on. So awesome game. Anyway, so thank you very much again. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your kind comments. Please, when you like the game, let everyone know around you. You know, so. Please. Try the name. So yes. Thank you.
Spread the love.
Yes.
Bye.
We need it. Bye bye, guys.